Is Handbuff high risk and high reward, or can it be consistent and still powerful? That's coming up. Hey everyone, Green Cricket here, bringing weekly in-depth Gwent guides directly to you so we can master the game and reach the goals we set ourselves. As every week, just tell me which guides you want to see next down in the comments below. And last week's suggestions were pretty diverse, so I chose a deck which has been requested in the last week as well, but which also has been requested multiple times in the past, and it's Handbuff. As always, we'll look at the card and deck list, a guideline for the mulligan, our general gameplay plan, recommended plays against each matchup, and then we'll look at an example match. Subscribe if you like what I'm doing, and let's head right into it. The core idea of this deck is that you create a big card in your hand so you have a fantastic target for Violent Scale Shield and Spotters. Both cards take the base power of a unit in your hand and then that as a buff. Spotters will only buff themselves, but Violent Scale Shield lets you target any unit on the board. This is powerful because it means that every spotter will become a 23 point unit if you only could get an 18 point unit onto your hand. Luckily for us, Nilfgaard has the power to do precisely that. First, we need to get a card with a relatively high strength onto the board. Cards in the deck which are suitable for this case are Nilfgaardian Knight, Glorious Hunt because it will spawn a Manticore if you are behind, and a Sire. The selected unit needs to survive for one turn, after which we will utilize the White Flame dancing on the barrels of his enemy, or better known as Emir, our chosen leader for this deck. Emir lets you play a card, and after all effects of the card have progressed, you may put a bronze or silver card back into your hand. This could be the card you just played, but the condition is that it is a unit on your side of the board. The card we play is Mandrake, or Vesemir into Mandrake, or Roll Decree into Vesemir into Mandrake, strengthening our biggest unit onto the board by 6. Thanks to Emir, we are now able to put it back onto the hand, and voila! There we have our big unit required for spotters and shields. However, spotters can only target a revealed card, so we use Leo Bonhart or Alchemist to do exactly that. Alchemist let you choose 2 cards to reveal from either your or your opponent's hand, while Leo Bonhart only lets you reveal 1 card of your hand, but therefore damages an enemy with the power of the revealed unit, meaning 18 damage in the case of Nilfgaardian Knight. Which hurts, and can remove nearly everything from the opponent's side of the board. Magni Division pulls a random item from our deck, and since we only have Violent Scale Shields, it will always draw them for a solid 21 point play. Nilfgaardian Knights are only there to be buffed by Mandrake in the beginning, but since they also reveal a card in your hand, you can try your luck and play them to reveal your big body unit if you have no access to Alchemist or Bonhart. Typically, this doesn't happen, and even if it happens, then you can survive a round by only playing Magni Divisions and Scale Shields since they don't require the revealed unit. A quick trick about Nilfgaardian Knights: they will always reveal bronze cards before silver cards and silvers before golds. Therefore you can tilt the odds a little in your favor. Reconnaissance lets you look up all these powerful bronze cards and adds more consistency by offering additional ways to access Nilfgaardian Knight or Alchemist at the beginning of the game. Glorious Hunt will give us a 13 point Manticore, but we can also use it to remove enemy core engines as soon as we are ahead, because then this card will spawn a Manticore Venom, which will deal 13 points of damage. Runestone gives us options and is mainly in there to have a second alchemy target with Vesemir in case that we already drew Mandrake in the round 1 mulligan. Cantarella is useful to get card advantage, especially if you want to bleed the enemy in round 2, and Alsa's Double Cross lets us access Cantarella more easily. If we have Cantarella on our starting hand, then we can also use Alsa's Double Cross to pull in Nilfgaardian Knight in case we didn't draw it. Asaya lets us put back Scale Shields to unbrick our Magni Divisions if we drew some of them in round 1, and Triss Telekinesis enables us to play an additional Violent Scale Shield as well. The mulligan would look like this. We want to have at least 1 big point unit in our starting hand, so we killed Nilfgaardian Knight, Asaya or Glorious Hunt. Glorious Hunt can't be played as our first card if we are in blue, because it would spawn a Manticore Venom, so it's a good idea to have Cantarella on hand because you can use Scale Shields on her as well, and Alsa's Double Cross will then pull a Nilfgaardian Knight, so keep that as well. Vesemir or Mandrake are required to strengthen the unit, and Alchemist or Leo Bonhart enable you to reveal it. Royal Decree lets you pull Vesemir or Bonhart, so that's one of the best cards to have in hand. Cards you want to get rid of are Violent Scale Shields, so you can pull it with Magni Divisions, Runestone, especially when you draw Mandrake and Nilfgaardian Knight, if you already have another one in your hand. Our gameplay plan looks like this. Round 1 is all about setting up our big point unit, and as soon as we have that, we push. Going down 2 cards is perfectly okay because we can bleed the enemy quite heavily in round 2. In addition to this, there are some points we need to consider. The first one is losing control of round 2, which we should avoid at all costs. If the enemy wins round 1, then they will force us to play all our big cards while we won't gain anything from it. This may cost us the game if we arrive in round 3 with suboptimal cards like Alchemist and only the big buffed up unit which the enemy has already prepared to face. The next point is Scorch, Igni and similar. People know the deck by now and they know that they can line up our units perfectly. Sometimes we are even forced to do it for them. So keep this in mind and try to stagger your buffs so that neither Igni nor Scorch can cost you the game. As long as they only destroy one unit, it is okay, because every bronze unit will get you back the value, but always be sure to have one unit on the row which is buffed up higher than the rest, so only this unit is scorched. Triss Telekinesis is useful for that, because it will provide precisely 1 point more than spotters do. The last point is the initial setup. Don't give up if the enemy manages to kill your Nilfgaardian Knight in round 1 and you have no replacement. You are still able to win this because your bronzes still have good targets like Cantarella. Just reveal her and try to push with a 13 point instead of an 18 point body. Even though it's not optimal, it is still good. We can also try to use Reconnaissance to look for another knight, because if we get a Magna Division, then we won't lose a lot of value from Reconnaissance as long as we have a Sire or a Cantarella in hand. Worst case, we can also pass and see if we can do a good mulligan. The matchups would look like this. Greatswords. The longer the rounds, the stronger they become, while long rounds are not favorable for us. That's why we let them do their Greatsword setup, already using Leo Bonhart to remove one from the board. After our enemy has finished setting up their board, we pass and force them to redo the whole setup. In round 2, we need to ensure that we end the round with at least 2 cards in our hand, or the enemy's Resurrected Greatsword will outvalue our hand. Best cards to keep are our hand buffed unit and Triss Telekinesis played into Violent Scale Shield, because Triss can't be artifact compressed by Coral. Veterans. They have some decent value output, but we should be able to do better. If they are playing Mandrake onto a Bearmaster, then you can use a Sire to remove it from the graveyard and put it back into the enemy's deck, denying them their power resurrection. Battle Maidens are also good targets for a Sire, because a resurrected Battle Maiden onto a Bearmaster will be quite some value as well. Axemen. Runestone may high roll into Weatherclear or Spheres, and Leo Bonhart enables you to remove a Darren or Axeman early. A Sire can be played to get Whale Harpooners back into the deck, disabling Corsairs to resurrect them. Except for those cards, there is not much we can do to interfere with their gameplay, so get those points out and hope it's enough. Alchemy. Slave Drivers are your primary enemy because they can conjure up spotters, who then exploit your hand buffed unit to add quite some points onto the wrong side of the board. Try to postpone revealing your hand buffed unit for as long as possible, and utilize a Sire to access additional scale shields already in round 1. Mulligan away spotters and keep scale shields and Magna Divisions on hand. Play the scale shields, use a Sire to put them back, then play Magna Divisions to re-access them. Coin flip elves. They work similar to Greatswords. The longer the round, the more points they can acquire by buffing up all their elves. That's why we try to split our rounds. The best timing is before they are ready to play their Vanguards. Some variants of this deck play Shirou, so stagger your units or you will suffer from a double or even triple Scorch. Use Violent Scale Shield on different units and not only Magna Division, and you should be fine. Triss Telekinesis also helps you with that. Deathwish. They have some burst potential, but after the initial setup, each of our unit puts more tempo on the board than their combos. Don't be afraid to push round 1, even if there is fog on the board, and then bleed your enemy off the keycards in round 2. Often you can force Siri Nova out, making your round 3 considerably easier. Neckers. There are 2 ways of playing. Either you can deny the setup, or you play like you usually would, trying to beat them with points. Cards that help you deny the setup are Leo Bonhart and Mandrake, but you should only do this if you have access to them in round 1, you are in red, and there's also a high body unit like Cantarella or Nilfgaardian Knight in your hand. Pass after they played the first Necker, then Mandrake the second Necker, and if they manage to play the third Necker, you use Leo Bonhart to get rid of it. Spotters and Scale Shields will now outvalue each of your enemy's cards, and typically you see a forfeit soon. Another good trick is to use a Sire and get Mandrake back into the deck so you can pull it with Vesemir in last round to destroy a big buffed up Rain Warrior. Henselt. The most significant threat in this matchup is that your enemy can line up your units and then use a Scorch Aura and Will Threaten Merge. Play spotters before using the majority of your scale shields because spotters are not staggerable, and if your enemy scorches in round 1, then you already get one of your lose conditions out of them, making round 3 considerably safer to play. Using one scale shield onto a bigger unit than your spotters will guard them against the Scorch as well. Okay, now let's look at an example match.
Nothing like a dwarf to get you to
Elves.
take sport.
Well,
The North
let's see
shall
if we can
tuck
deal with
tail
elves
and
here.
beg for mercy.
Okay, we can reveal something which is good. We blacklist scale shields. This may give us... Oh, it's pretty likely to give us a Nilfgaardian Knight here. Not bad as well. Since we have Leo, we don't need Alchemist, but it breaks our reconnaissance. Still. Okay, Magic is perfect. We need that for sure. We're in blue. Okay, let's see what we get with Recon. Perfect, there we go. There's Nilfgaardian Knight.
All roads lead to Nilfgaard.
And he also has to start with our Mandrake, whatever combi.
Coexistence, no such thing.
We don't care too much right now. We play Emir.
The North
We
shall
play
tuck tail and
Mandrake.
beg for
We
mercy.
select Strengthening. Put up. And there it goes, back in our hand. 70 points ahead. He probably plays the combi now to, you know...
Nothing like a dwarf to get you to take sport.
I had even no idea. He could have just passed as well. Because, I mean... Why wouldn't he, right? There you go. Now let's play Cantarella ourselves.
Let us see.
This is good. This gives me... I mean, it's not bad as well. But this gives me just more points. So there we go. And we are now how much behind? 22 points.
You shall taste of your own medicine.
Should we reveal already? I mean, we have Cantarella to kill, which is not bad. So let's reveal the element unit and hit Cantarella for a lot of points, and there you go. I'm not sure why he plays actually. Could have...
Everything all
Because
right?
now I'm forcing him to split the rounds, otherwise he could have just won the first round and... or going 2 cuts down, I don't care. Well, I'm not playing this. I'm just playing some spotters here, just to... actually for no real reason. I just want to push a bit. And as soon as he's going to...
Blood and neck ends.
Yeah, there he goes. He starts swarming his elves. As long as we can't take this round with 2 cuts up, we're fine. So we just play another spotter here. Well, if he can get Scorch out in this round, I would not be too sad about it, actually.
I am who I need to be.
I'll make him, like, I will tempt him. So this just looks way too good for Scorch. I hope he can't help himself now. I'm not even sure if he runs Scorch.
Why have you
But if he
summoned me?
Scorches, this would be the thing. I mean, we got a lot of elves out now. Question is how much we really want to play into this now. We could play Recon and just get a bullshit cut out, just to get it out, right? And push next round. So let's get a bullshit cut out, which is... I think this is not too bad. Let's see what he has. There we go.
You've not seen me.
Okay, the standard deck, it seems. Good.
Oi! Hey there! Come here!
We could play a Sire now. Like getting more recon in there, or... But I would rather like make his mulligan worse. So I think at this point we just... I mean, like, we're 5 points behind. This will give me 21 points. So... Can he make 16 points? He could with another one of his elves. But then we missed that next round. But it also fins the deck, so it's not a bad thing to have. So there we go. Let's do this one more time. And now I think we go out here. Probably needs to play Vanguard now. No Doppler. Okay, this is good. This looks good. If you
You
can't
shall
make it now,
taste of your
pass.
own medicine.
Never had your kneecaps broken.
This is our exit. Let's just hope he doesn't have wardens or something. We got a lot of his elves out, so like we really should have denied him one of his win conditions, which is the swarm. Now it could be still, I didn't count, like could it be Nova? I don't see 2 of something. So this gives me Runestone, is not too bad. Shield I really don't need on hand. This is way better, gives me Magna Division. Okay, now we play a Sire.
Yes.
And we put back, I think, his Spy into his deck. Or Barkley. We could really disable Small again by getting Cantarella into his deck and Barkley. Because we don't really need something else, right? No. It's fine. So this should make his mulligan way worse now. And that's fine for me. Neither Barkley nor Cantarella will help him. And now he should, like, if he plays his mulligan elves, like how I call the officers. Or we played 1 or 2 already? 1. There you go. It will hurt him. If you get Royal Decree now, it would be really problematic. But we only can get 1 Magna Division. So we could keep this and not risk into drawing Royal Decree. So it's fine. And we actually start this. So let's start this with Recon into Magna Division, I guess. But 21 points right there. 18 points because of play points. Well. Use Vivian's Scale Shield then onto Vesemir. Now we can get another Vivian's Scale Shield with Triss. That should be some value.
You should not have come here.
You can generate some elves. This is like the 11-point elf. Runestone is kind of too soon because we don't have real targets, so well, let me play Triss onto the Vivian's Scale Shield. And there we go. 24 points. We're currently 30 points ahead.
Let's hurry.
Okay, buffs them up, sure. But he only can get bronze units now. So I don't think he will get the Mulligan Elf. As I said, it's too dangerous with all the cards in the deck. But he can get another Vanguard. Now I have a target for Runestone, which is good. So let's play Runestone. Swears is probably bullshit. Guardian would mess with him even more. This is dangerous because we also have dead cards in hand. I think we just take the Guardian here. So if he mulligans now, it's devastating. Like half of his cards in deck are not good.
Don't leave me here.
Okay, he probably plays the Hunter. Oh, actually mulligans. Ooh, I'm not sure if he is, if he likes what he sees there. So do we think if he plays Scorch? Because if he plays Scorch, then we would like to actually use Scale Shield onto the Guardian. There we go. Otherwise, this would be the same value. There we go, he forfeits. This week there will be no voting on the guide because I'm off to vacation in Ireland and already need to prepare next week's guide, which will be spiced, by the way. So look out for that next Wednesday. And if you like what I'm doing, leave a subscribe. And I hope that you can, welcome you in one of the other videos. So see you there. Bye.